Hey, Bowling. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you too.
Hey, did you see my Christmas sweater?
Unfortunately.
The Wet Bandits?
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
I thought so. Where's Brooke at?
I haven't heard from her. It's kind of odd. She's usually the first one here.
Yeah, that is weird. Let me text her and see what's going on.
Hold on, guys. We'll be there in a minute. Just getting prepared.
What in the world is she getting prepared for?
Beats me. It's probably, you know what it is? I bet it's some of that shepherd's pie stuff that I mentioned last week.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
All right, guys. I'm ready.
Why on earth are you dressed like that?
This was supposed to be tacky Christmas sweater, right? Not G.I. Jane apparel?
I'm ready for war. We've got to save the baby Jesus.
What war are you talking about?
The war on Christmas, you know, where we can't say things like Merry Christmas, and we have to say things like Happy Holidays, Season's Greetings, for Pete's sakes.
Well, I guess that war's not every year. The past 4 years have been peacetime for that war.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Are you serious? Y'all, we have to fight this war.
So you're telling me that you buy into this whole forced to say Happy Holidays thing?
Where have you all been for the last decade?
I don't mind saying happy holidays. It's respectful to other religions.
What? They have brainwashed one of my own.
Uh-oh.
That's not good.
I am not going to take this.
Jeez, Mom, grow up.
Oh,
You better be careful with that. You'll shoot your eye out.
oh, don't you boys worry about me. Are you ready to fight this war or not?
If I say yes, would you put away the Nerf gun?
Do you mean it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Alright.
I guess we're going to fight the war on Christmas.
Do life's greatest questions seem like a mystery? Well, we're probably going to talk about it here at Appalachian Liturgy. Important questions like, are you a Jedi or an Imperial? Is oatmeal actually a breakfast cereal? Is a Catholic weekday really called a ferial? Did you know that Mr. Rogers was Presbyterial? So join us as we have a little fun talking about thy kingdom come. Appalachian Liturgy.
Okay, welcome everyone to the next episode of the Appalachian Liturgy Podcast. I am Justin Stacy.
And I'm Brooke Atchley.
I'm Justin Bowling.
And tonight, our guest happens to be my youngest daughter. This is Abby. She is a college student at Gardner-Webb University in North Carolina, so she's home for Christmas break. What else do you want to say about yourself?
I play soccer and it's my passion, but my parents are both preachers, so I have some religious passion as well.
Very
but we
nice.
don't share a brain, so this could get interesting.
Very good. Thank you, Abby,
Very
for joining
screen,
us.
but not an opinion.
Sweet. Thanks, Abby, for joining us. All right. So tonight we are going to fight the war on Christmas, as the preview stated. So first, I think we should go through the history of the war on Christmas. So let's go back to the 1920s. Henry Ford, he was very anti-Semitic, and he was basically convinced that the more Jewish people we get, the more we're going to have in terms of controversy around Christmas. So I just got a quote here that he says in 1921, last Christmas, most people had a hard time finding Christmas cards that indicated in any way that Christmas commemorated Christ's birth. And he was basically blaming that on the influx of Jewish people, which is terrible, but that's what he was doing. So then we jump to the 1950s, We have an increase in church attendance post-war. We have more adopting of religious imagery in public schools. And of course, because of that, we have more court cases. Okay. We have the John Birch Society. They had a pamphlet that stated, "There goes Christmas." It says one of the techniques now being applied by the Reds, I'm not sure what that even
The
is.
commies.
Commies, okay. Is to weaken the pillar of religion in our country, to drive out and take out Christ from Christmas. The UN fanatics launched their assault on Christmas in 1958, but too late to get very far from the holy day was at hand. They are already busy, however, at this very moment on efforts to poison the 1959 Christmas season with their high-pressure propaganda. So, you know, more conspiracy theory stuff, and he's kind of blaming the UN at this point and commies. Okay, so now the 70s through the 90s, we have an increase in secularism and pluralism. And society as a whole is starting to accept more religions and more people groups into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So because of that, you have an influx of companies and retailers starting to include happy holidays and season's greetings during this time. Okay, so in the 80s, we also have the Supreme Court ruling that the 10 Commandments was unconstitutional to have in public schools. All right, so now we jump to 2004. And this is sort of, I think, the modern day war on Christmas started around this time when Fox News host Bill O'Reilly declared that there is a war on Christmas. That was his tagline. And it's a national emergency, and that we need to boycott any retailer that did not say Merry Christmas. And he had a specific list. Then in 2005, he did the same exact thing.
I remember this well.
Okay, I don't remember this at all. Like that was.
It's because I'm older than you.
It was 18. I was 18 and 19, and I just didn't pay attention to the news, especially Fox News. But I didn't pay attention to the news. So in 2005, he does the same exact thing. There's a book that comes out called "The War on Christmas: How the Liberal Plot to Ban the Sacred Christian Holiday is Worse Than You Thought." So this book, he pressures Christian groups to pressure the retailers to include Merry Christmas back into their greetings, and they do. They cave and they do it. And then in 2006, he basically has a program during the holiday season, and he says, "We have won the war on Christmas." Like he's making accolades to himself that he won the war on Christmas. So you jump 10 years later, and you have Donald Trump running on this idea that we can't say Merry Christmas. In 2019, he says that there is victory. You can say Merry Christmas again. And now in 2020, Franklin Graham just came out yesterday saying that he was thankful that Donald Trump allowed us to say Merry Christmas again. There is the American history of the war on Christmas.
So war's over.
War's over.
Well, I think it's picking back up. I think in 2021, it picks back up. So what's going on here? That's the real question. Like, is there any merit to this? And why should we be worried? Should we be worried?
So do you want the seminary answer?
Any answer you want to give?
Well, we thought we lived in Christendom, right? Where the church was the center of our existence. And in some places it was in our communities, but it is no longer so. So I think what's happening is the people who are within the church, there's some who blame that on things like government and businesses and that kind of thing. And so in my opinion, our anger about that comes out in petty arguments, again, in my opinion, about things like not saying Merry Christmas, and I think if I could use the word ignorant in its true form, and being not educated or not knowing, I think there's a lot of people who don't understand all the different holidays that happen during this holiday season, if you will. I mean, when we're recording this, it's the last night of Hanukkah. The last light is being lit tonight, and for those of us with Jewish friends, this is a high holy night. And we forget that in the midst of all of this, I think. So that's kind of but Christendom, I mean, we just don't live in Christendom anymore.
Yeah, I like that point about like how the overall like feeling that things are changing in a negative way kind of boils over at certain inflection points. Something, whether it's this or prayer in school or something like that, those seem to be like places where fires get lit, and that's where people focus on, even if it like may just be an individual instance of the bigger problem that people are feeling. And I think you're entirely right about that. Like it's may not be entirely about Christmas. It's more so about like the feeling that Christianity is being moved away from the center of people's lives like it used to be when, some mythological age.
Back in the good old days,
Yeah.
Back when we still circled around the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Abby, do you notice, like in college and high school or whatever, did your friends, were they more saying Happy Holidays, Season's Greetings, or was it Merry Christmas? Like
Both in high school and in college, most people say Merry Christmas, but I do go to a Christian college, so
And not Christian in name only. It's like
right,
a real Christian
it's
college.
a real Christian college, so like 80% of the people that go there are Christian, so Christmas is very important to us. But in high school too, it was always Merry Christmas, though if somebody said Happy Holidays, I definitely didn't take offense to that.
right.
But you have friends at school that are not Christian.
Yes, I have several teammates that are actually Muslim, and I think we have one Jew that's coming in this class, so.
Great.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So, I really don't think that this is necessarily a pressure on the public. It really is more of a corporate thing, right? So, and I think a lot of our politically correctness trickles down from corporate policies, because corporations will do things to try to be more inclusive to hit more markets. Like that's their motive,
Sure.
And then it does blend in sometimes, because if you work for a corporation, they're going to force you to do certain things and to act certain ways. And then once you start doing that and you get in a habit, then it starts going into the public. So I think a lot of, what we're seeing with that, but I just don't see that the public in general is saying Happy Holidays any more than they ever did. I think you'll hear every once in a while of a case where a school, like there is someone of a Muslim faith or an atheist or maybe Jewish or whatever, they will protest a Christmas play or something like that because they don't want it in their school. But it's not like it's a widespread thing. It's like one specific case. I think the issue is, the media will pick it up.
Right.
And then once the media picks it up, then you have media outlets like Fox News that makes the biggest deal out of it, as if this is happening all over the United States. But it's more...
I try to always look at this from another angle, right? So when my kids were coming up into school, it was in the height of the war on Christmas, if you will. I mean, really, when they were in the public school system, early elementary, middle school, this was a big flipping deal. And so we quit having Christmas parties. We went to holiday parties. And I tried to put myself in the situation of a family that maybe wasn't Christian or was of another religion, and their kids having to sing about the birth of a king in their school play, or and if the shoe was on the other foot, the roles were reversed, I wouldn't necessarily want my children participating in things that were of another religion and confusing them at that age. I mean, so I kind of get where some of this is coming from,
Right.
right? But I think for me, the line is crossed when, as a Christian, I am told I can't wish people Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So for me, that's as wrong as making people wish people a Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when my non-Christian friends wish me Merry Christmas or Happy Easter, or, greet me in a traditional Christian greeting. Just as I hope my friends of other religions appreciate the fact that I wish them whatever it is their, holiday may be at the time. And I don't think that cheapens my faith witness to them. I think it actually strengthens it so that they don't feel like I'm so abrasive to them. Just an opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if we do get so like hung up on only saying happy holidays or something like that, like when you start making things too generic and not talking about the differences and the individuality of things, you lose some of the beauty. That's like part of the beauty of diversity, is some of the different experiences, the different life things that people are bringing to the table. But if you just kind of make an overarching statement that's vague and generic, it doesn't really have much meaning. Instead, I do, if I know somebody's Jewish, I would absolutely wish them Happy Hanukkah. If I know somebody's, Christian, wish them Merry Christmas. I think that's the ideal way. But at the same time, like, there's nothing wrong with like being generic sometimes. Like, everybody says, hey y'all, how, instead of saying everybody's individual names, that would be silly every single time. So, I think we kind of look at it from that.
The term Happy Holidays stands for Happy Holy Days, right? So
yeah.
It is representing what we're celebrating, but it's including other faiths too.
Sure.
And I don't have an issue with it at all. Like, I wouldn't have an issue, like, let's say that you was going to a corporate holiday party, and in that holiday party you have a Christmas tree. You might even, it would be interesting to see a cross. I don't think you ever would, but if you did, or a manger, and also see, like a menorah.
Yep.
I would be fine with that. That would be perfectly fine with me.
Yeah. The best way to do it. So you still get the individuality of the differences, but yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, and this is a little controversial, I think there are some religions that stand in opposition to one another. So that's when I would have a real problem with that. I would have trouble with some pagan kind of things, some Wiccan kind of stuff. I mean, that I would not want that to be represented. And knowing that that's my view on that, I could see where people wouldn't want Christian things represented.
Yep.
So try to be cognizant of that. An interesting thing that happened to us this year, I've been working on Christmas cards, which with the way the post office is going right now, they may end up being New Year's cards, even if I get them in the mail soon, but that's a whole nother thing. But we bought these, multi-packs of Christmas cards, and we ended up having to take 2 completely out and not send them to folks. One, because it had nothing to do with religion. It said, we hope that you are surrounded by tons of family and friends this holiday season. And we were like, yeah, that's totally not appropriate during COVID. So we took that one out. But there was one that was just totally kind of generic, seasons greetings. There was nothing about Christmas in this Christmas card. And we didn't feel that as pastors, it was appropriate for us to do that, or I was going to have to handwrite into all of them something, and we knew that there would probably be folks who would be offended if they got a Christmas card from their pastor that didn't mention Christmas at all. So, and there's also some really terrible theology in Christmas cards. I'll just say, they're bad. Like, I had one about the magic of Christmas, but it wasn't about Santa. It was about Jesus. It was God's magic at Christmas time. And I was like,
oh yeah, that's something.
So, I mean, I think as Christians, we've gotten all riled up about this war on Christmas, and we see it from this outside forces persecuting the church. But we are our worst enemy in this
Mhm.
because we go along with terrible theology about Christmas. And, you know, I mean, we speak out of both sides of our mouths about Christmas sometimes. And I mean, we're a family that celebrated with Santa, but Santa wasn't the focus of our
Mhm.
Christmas. For a while, when the kids were little, we didn't even decorate with a whole lot of Santas because we wanted to make sure that our kids understood Christmas.
We didn't decorate with Santa until I was a junior in high school.
True.
Wow.
This is a true story.
Wow.
I mean, we weren't anti-Santa, and it wasn't that we didn't have Santa stuff, but we did change our Christmas table up to have Santa things.
And I got my first Santa shower curtain.
Yes.
Wow. Well,
But it was important to us that, one, when people came over to visit us,
Right.
that we were portraying what Christmas was really about. But also we just saw the damage that it was causing in people's lives to miss the meaning of Christmas.
Yeah.
So if we're going to talk about the war on Christmas, we've got to talk about them both.
That's what I was going to say. Is I like that you brought up that Christians are our own worst enemy, because I feel like Justin started the history of the war on Christmas a couple centuries too late.
I did deliberately because I was going. But go ahead and bring it up. I was going to bring it up. But yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. If you have some specific stuff, that's fine. I was going to talk about the Puritans in the 17th century in England banning Christmas there because it was viewed as too much of a traditional Catholic Episcopal holiday type thing. And then the same ones in the early colonies did the same thing. I think Massachusetts was one of them that had banned Christmas for a short time.
Boston.
Yeah, and so that was from Christians themselves saying that no, we shouldn't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, and
so
then,
the whole missing the point of Christmas now and making it more materialistic, and that's something Christians take part of just as much as anybody else. Like if there's a war on Christmas, it's those things.
Yeah. So it wasn't until I think the 1870s that we recognized Christmas as a national holiday. And that's because that's when it was starting to be widely accepted. Until that point, it was still controversial in a lot of places because of the Puritan belief on Christmas. So, and you still have religious groups that of the Christian flavor who is very anti-Christmas. So it's not like this is out of the realm of the church. Like we are our worst enemy on a lot of things.
We really are.
But I would also say, yeah, go ahead, Abby.
Do you think that we are?
We definitely are. We've commercialized Christmas, and we have allowed it to be commercialized. It's no longer about the birth of Jesus or the gift from God that Jesus was to us. It's more about Santa and giving gifts to other people. So we are our worst enemy in that case because we've lost complete sight of what Christmas truly is.
And the Santa craze didn't start until the Coca-Cola picked it up and was using it for advertisement. So I was reading the history of this, and they said that during the Civil War that both sides actually used Santa as for propaganda. So apparently that's what Santa's always been used for. But I do think the real war on Christmas, like I believe there is a war on Christmas. It's not what Fox News is telling us. I believe that it is the commercialization of it, the consumerism of America, and the church has just bought into this, and we're right in the deep of this consumeristic society that we need to take a step back and remember ourselves that what Christmas is about.
See,
and
I had that with COVID and our normal Christmas activities all been kind of disrupted because of that, has allowed us, if we'll take the opportunity to talk really about, and Abby kind of hinted to this, about the gift of Jesus, about the fact that Jesus is God with us, Emmanuel, and what does that mean? Like, Whereas when you're so rushed, and let me just tell you, during a normal Advent Christmas season as a pastor's family, you're almost gone every single night between events at the church and the schools and people's holiday parties, Christmas parties and stuff it's almost constant. And it's fun and, you're celebrating and stuff, but you don't really ever get to talk about the God with us. And, there have been a few positive things that have come out of COVID, and I think that's one of them, is just this kind of step back and really talk about what does it mean that God is with us? Like, what does that really mean? Because I think we get so focused on the birth of Jesus, right? This sweet, and we did it with our kids. We had birthday cakes on Christmas, and we talked about baby Jesus, and we had one kid that was obsessed with baby Jesuses in the manger. And how do you tell your kid that you can't play with baby Jesus, right? Like, don't touch baby Jesus. And so we actually found the baby Jesuses that went into our nativity scene. We bought a whole stockpile of them because they got broken every year because somebody loved them. And but it's been difficult to do that line. It's not just about this sweet little baby. Like, we know how the story ends, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of deep historical incarnation theology that I think we forget, like how important some of the season is. Like, you go read Athanasius's like incarnation stuff, his famous line about God became like us so that we can become like him. That's deep stuff. That's not just, like you said, a cute little baby in a manger, but it's very theologically rich things. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have time to get into how our nativity sets are so not.
It irks me.
You have to have the wise men at the nativity, or it's not a real nativity, right?
No, I like to put them across the room, but it's still traveling.
That's pretty good.
They're on their way, but they're not there.
I've seen people not put Jesus in the manger too until Christmas Day and leave it out. Although that still feels, I feel like you have to have Jesus in the nativity, but I think that's an interesting way to kind of make it more, theologically accurate too.
Right.
I'm going to start trademarking more historically accurate nativities.
Yeah, trademark them. Yeah,
trademark them.
Yeah, I think one year we did the whole wrap Jesus up, and we put Jesus in the nativity, and I don't know. It was a balance for us because we saw what happened in people's families when they kind of missed the mark as far as Christmas. And, we talked about Christmas cards with bad theology. Our Christmas hymns are terrible, some of them. But I love them still, and I want to sing them because that's what we've always done. Except We Three Kings, it's really bad.
That's the one I was thinking of.
I like the song, but yeah.
I like it too.
I love the song, but you're like, I don't know.
I always had a friend that I know that gets all strung up on Away in a Manger, where it talks about no crying he makes. Like, well, if Jesus doesn't cry, he's a normal baby. He's got to be, if you're suggesting he's not really human, so therefore you're...
The baby doesn't cry, you should be worried.
Right. Yeah. The next big thing is, and he says, it's everybody's favorite silent night, holy. He's like, there was nothing silent about that night. Have you ever been in the delivery with somebody? Ain't nothing silent about it.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great. Anything else to put a nice little bow on this War on Christmas discussion?
Well, I think again, when people are so riled up about War on Christmas, what I try to do is turn that back around and say, we're to blame for part of this,
Yeah. I like what you said earlier about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I think that's a very Christian thing to do. Like, if somebody has got to be self-sacrificial, it's going to be Christians. So, like, if we need to, if there is a need to make a holiday more generic or more whatever, because there's people who are completely offended by our religions getting privilege, and that's really what it is in the public square, then we need to take a step back and say, okay, I can see their point. And if we have to do this generic thing for the public square, that's fine. Like I will sacrifice that because we are a pluralistic society and we encourage many religions or no religion. And if that is the America we want to continue in, we have to embrace and protect the idea that our religions should be treated equal.
Yeah, I also think that us saying happy holidays or season's greetings doesn't lessen the importance of Christmas in our lives. I also don't think it keeps people from knowing the real meaning of Christmas. And I don't think it diminishes our witness. I do think that being so militaristic about it and fighting so badly and being so ugly about it makes people who aren't followers of Christ say, why the heck would I want to be a follower of Christ if we're going to have to fight each other on saying Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays? You know, and I'll also try to think about the workers that are kind of caught in the middle, you know, and having worked, I mean, I think we've all worked retail or fast food or something at that point, and you get tired of, well, maybe not all of us, but you get tired of saying the same thing over and over again. Yep. So you may switch it up. And I don't know. I just wish as Christians, we would act more like Christians than speak like we think we should fight. Like there's nothing fighting about Christianity. Mm-hmm. And to fight over the war on Christmas flies such in the face of what actually happened on Christmas that as Christians, when that happens, we're doing our religion a much disservice and we're not pointing people to Christ.
We need to remember what we're truly celebrating.
Yeah, so all those people who scream, remember the reason for the season, they may need to
do it.
Yeah, keep Christ and Christmas. I think it was maybe Colbert that said, keep Christ? No, it wasn't Colbert. It was like a meme or something. It was like, he says stuff like this too, but it's like instead of keeping Christ and Christmas, how about we keep Christ and Christian?
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And I do like the idea of like not getting too hung up on exactly the words we use. I mean, like you even think about the words for Christmas. It's not that in every other language. Most other languages, something like nativity, Navidad, or something like that.
Xmas.
Yeah, you're not taking Christ out of Christmas by calling it that. Same thing on Easter. Like we have Easter instead of like all the other languages have something like Pascha, something about Passover. We don't.
Right.
That doesn't lessen what Easter is about. As long as we keep our eyes on what it's really about, people will see it for what it is.
So I think we would be amiss if we didn't address the Xmas.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So anybody that has taken Greek, I mean, it's like in seminary, Greek is one of the first classes you take, and it's like a rite of passage, right? Like you survive in advance. There are these really weird people who love it and take it all their, but most of us take it. We're thankful we had it, and we're thankful we don't have to take it anymore. Okay, let's just be honest. But after that, we all use the symbol X, mm-hmm. stand for Christ when we're taking notes. And, you know, it's a pet peeve of mine, you know. So people need to educate themselves.
And that's part of the issue, I think, is how much can we expect a lay person to look into these things and know that that's a Greek letter for Christ? So I've done it, but
here's my problem with it. I don't necessarily expect the lay people, but we have pastors out there who are screaming this from their pulpits.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And that's the problem that I have.
And we can expect people to not assume the worst when they see something. Like you don't see that and just be like, oh, well, they're trying to X out Christ or something like that. No, I'm using the first letter of Christ.
Yeah. I think it's the duty of the pastors really that who should know better and who should be held accountable. Mm-hmm. Okay. When they know better, then they teach the lay people, this is what's going on with Xmas. I'm definitely uses Xmas in the title of this podcast, by the way. That's happening. It's going to be the War on Xmas. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we've tackled all of the goings on of the War on Christmas. You know, I think for the most part, it's malarkey. What we see in the mainstream media of War on Christmas, it's malarkey, I think. But there are issues, and there are things that we Christians should do to help our neighbor.
So do you think this is generational at all?
I don't see a war on Christmas.
So when I was talking about the War on Christmas, Abby was like,
What war? I wouldn't. I think it might be because, in my mind, if I wasn't familiar with Bill O'Reilly, if I didn't know the history of all of that stuff, then just looking at what my experiences are and in corporate America and in the public square, I wouldn't see it as a war either. I would just see it as we are just making accommodations and being more accepting of other religions during this holy time. That's what I would see it as. I wouldn't see it as a war. So the fact that other generations do see it as a war, it's probably back to your point of they grew up in Christendom.
mm-hmm.
And I think for the most part, if you're a millennial or post-millennial, I guess that's what you are, Abby, right? Post-millennial?
Yeah.
That's
She's
the
an old
name?
soul, y'all.
I think it is, right? Is
I
that
don't know.
Technically,
generation
she's Gen
A, B,
Z.
C, D, E, F, G? I don't know what generation we're on.
Anna's Gen X. I'm right at that cutoff.
I don't know.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I think you're
right.
right. All right, so I guess let's go ahead and transition into our top five. So segue. Appalachian Liturgy Top 5 Debate. To our top five. So for Christmas themed top five, we decided to do our top 5 Christmas gifts that we received as a kid. And
This
Abby,
is hard.
This was hard. I don't remember
hard.
a lot of gifts.
I bet it wasn't hard for Abby, but I bet it was hard for the rest of us.
I could think about what maybe her top 5 was, but
That's
for
right.
mine, I was like,
I came
Oh.
up with my top 5 easy,
I bet,
right
yeah.
off the top of my head.
Well, start rattling them off, starting with 5.
For number 5, I actually have the Wii, and this is like when they first came out. And this Wii is actually in my college apartment right now. It gets used every day. It's holding true. Hope it stays for the.
they have
4
Wii
years.
tournaments.
Very intense Wii tournaments.
They've had to put like masking tape on the floor and everything so people don't
Yeah.
crash into one another.
It
It's
gets
great.
intense. It gets intense. But for number 4, I have DSs, Nintendo DSs, which were amazing. Those chat rooms were lit. If you didn't have a DS and you couldn't be in the chat room, you didn't have anybody sit next to it.
So
Let's
her
go.
DS, I got in line at 3 a.m. at Circuit City on Black Friday
Circuit
at
City.
like 15 degrees. Literally, the Panera lady was coming up and back down and forth with hot chocolate and stuff. So shout out to my family
Yeah.
for helping with the
Honestly,
DSs
it was
at
great.
Circuit City.
That's
And
great.
then, so for my third one, I have to do the hamster that my dad dropped.
Oh, no.
for Christmas.
Yeah, he had the flu. We were setting up, for Christmas morning and walking down the stairs and the bottom of the cage falls out. So we're chasing a hamster and trying to clean up Christmas Eve night. Great story.
Yeah, and this was when Twilight first came out. So, of course, I had to name my hamster Bella. Yeah.
Did you find it immediately, or was it like missing for a while?
No, I mean, we found it shortly, but we weren't sure it was going to live. So we
Wow.
had this whole thing planned out. I made a sign and everything that Santa was going to leave to say that the hamster was going to be picked up later and all the stuff was there in case we woke up and it was dead. But Bella lived for a while. But yeah, and we had
miracle.
shag carpet.
It's a
We
Christmas
had shag
miracle.
carpet. And we were on our hands and knees picking up all of the little pieces of the cedar stuff because we couldn't run the vacuum cleaner because we wouldn't wake the kids up. So It's a
Wow.
great story to hand down.
That
through the
is.
generations.
That is a good story.
Did you find any hamster presents?
Mm-mm.
That's funny.
No,
All right.
we found it pretty quickly. Go ahead. What is
Cool.
So for my number 2, you're also going to enjoy telling this story. It has to be my first MP3 player. It was one of those triangular ones that you could wrap around your arm. I wanted it so bad.
So funny story about this one. It was technically a Christmas present that we lost because we ran out of boxes, and I used an oatmeal box and taped it up. And before I could wrap it, Aaron put it back in the cabinet thinking it had oatmeal in it. So Christmas morning came and we can't find the MP3 player. And about a month later, I opened up to feed the kids oatmeal before school, and there was the MP3 player.
That is pretty good.
Wow.
All right.
That's
So
great.
number 1.
And for my number 1, I had to go with my baby blanket that I honestly don't remember receiving, but she's been there with me
Wow.
at all. Yeah, she
That's
has
impressive.
some holes. She used to be fuzzy.
Does she have a name?
Yes.
Bibby.
So you've had that since your first Christmas?
Yes.
Because my oldest daughter has a stuffed animal that she swears that's going to make it, forever. And it's looking pretty rough already. That one looks like it's in pretty good shape. Hers is rough already in 9 years.
That's awesome.
You can see through it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go to college, but you can show your college friends what Bibby looks like.
Yeah. I mean, they know about Bibby. We all have our baby blankets at home.
And
but,
Bibby has been everything. It's been clothing and lassos and,
Yes.
you
Wow.
name it, weapons and
capes.
That's awesome.
Capes.
All right, Brooke, do you want to go?
Sure. So my number 5 is a waterbed. My sister and I each got a waterbed for Christmas one year.
Hmm.
So that was a pretty cool gift. And my number 4 was a trampoline. Again, a lot of these are like gifts that my sister and I got together.
Mhm.
So, and it was the old school trampoline. None of this was safety features or anything. There was lots of.
It was laced in barbed wire.
Yeah, so I'm way too old for safety features. So my number 3 was my own stereo. It had a dual tape deck and a turntable and speakers.
Did
and
you carry it around on your shoulder? Mom?
no, it was a stereo that went into the shelf. But I did get a boom box. One year. So my number 2 gift is kind of generic. We got them every Christmas Eve. It was tradition that we opened pajamas. And so we all had matching pajamas. So just tradition kind of thing. And the number 1 gift that I got as a kid, my grandfather built my sister and I a playhouse that had, and it lasted, my kids played in it, but it had a front door and a roof and it had sliding windows.
It's still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and we're talking like, standalone playhouse. It was painted to match my grandparents' house. And anytime they painted the outside of their house differently, my papa changed it. And then it had the blow up furniture. So when we came downstairs, we had this blow up furniture in the living room that went to the playhouse that was out in the yard. But so instantly when I was telling my sister that we were doing this top 5, that was both of ours number 1 top 5 gift. But my honorable mention, I had one, and stockings were a big deal in my family, and they still are today in our family. So they're just in a whole category. We could do a top 5 stocking
stuffers
in our family because it's such a big deal. So
that's
that's
awesome.
my top 5.
All right, I'm gonna go first. Bowling, you're last.
Number 5. Oh,
Whoa. How dare you? Okay. My number 5 is it's a drag racetrack, and I don't know who made it. It may have been Matchbox. It may have been, I don't know. But I got it as like a toddler. I was like maybe 3 or 4 when I got it. But I could remember specifically it being in the hallway because we had a long hallway, and it was a drag racetrack, and it stretched from the hallway to in the living room. And you had remote control cars, and you raced them. You would have 2, and you race them. And I remember as soon as I got it, my uncle come to my house and played with me on that. And I was very, very young at that point. So just because I have that memory, I put that on there. My number 4, I think I got when it may have been my first Christmas or my second Christmas, Teddy Ruxpin, the talking bear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tapes
And it had all kinds of tapes for it, and it was amazing. And
you put the tapes in the butt, didn't you?
it was in the back, I think. I think it popped out the back or something like that. And I think I still have that somewhere. So
It's probably worth money.
if you have the box, it is. It's funny. A lot of these old things, it's way more valuable if you have the original box. Number 3, a Light Bright, and Light Bright's still around. Even the original looking version is still around.
I got a Light Bright one year.
I don't know what that is.
What?
No,
Get out. No. So it's basically this. It looks like a projector screen almost. It's like this big TV tube looking screen, and it has a black paper on it, and it has images. And you take these little lights, almost kind of like this but smaller, and you plug in the image. So then it looks like it's
And it lights up, but it
lights
has all
up.
these colors.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
So my memory of it is when I got it, I don't remember what age, but my grandparents got it for me, I think. And my great grandmother was alive at this point. And as soon as I got it, she wanted to play with it. And she played with it with me. And we made an image. And I can remember that so distinctly. So that is one of my fondest memories. My number 2 is the Nintendo NES. This is the only console I put on here. It was the first console I ever owned. And it started me down the gaming road when I was a kid. And I remember just can't wait for Santa Claus to arrive to bring that thing to me. And the first TV I actually played that on was a black and white TV, believe it or not.
Transylvania was one of the best NES games.
I think
still a good game.
I think my favorite. I don't know that I played Transylvania, but I loved all the Marios. Mario 3 is probably my favorite. Yeah.
So I long for an NES again that actually works.
I have one.
I mean the technique.
I have one I'm not doing anything with.
Same with all your other consoles.
Right. I went through a phase years ago that I was trying to collect all these consoles, and so I'd pick them up cheap at a flea market or whatever. But yeah, I'm doing nothing with them, and I'm letting them collect dust, and they're probably going to be bad. So I should probably get rid of them. But on to my number 1. My number 1 is my first new guitar, and I was probably 13, 14 years old at that point. My first new guitar with a guitar case. That is the same guitar that I still have and still play today. It is a Samick acoustic, and it has the cherry finish on the back. And all the videos I post with the acoustic, that's what I'm playing. And my grandfather, my late grandfather, him and mom bought it for me together. Like, it was kind of expensive. So they went in together and bought it for me. And I learned to play guitar on it, and I just love the thing, and it still sounds really good. Now the electric part of it, so with the acoustic electric, you basically can turn it into an electric guitar. It doesn't work anymore. So it's just an acoustic guitar at this point. But that's my number 1.
Cool.
Yep. And on to you, Owen.
All right. Number 5, I went with one of those turtle sandboxes. Apparently this year for Christmas, that was literally the only thing I ever asked for. Anytime anybody asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I said, I want a turtle sandbox, because that was the only thing on my list. But yeah, I wound up getting it. I know everybody's seen those. They were like everywhere back in the day, but yeah. Number 4, the SNES. I don't think I never had a NES to myself, but I did have an SNES. My parents had one, the NESs, but yeah, the SNES I got with the Super Mario World. Played it so many times, and that was the only game I had for many years. It seems like. Number 3 went with the Dan Marino Dolphins uniform that I got one year. It was just like a dress-up costume I got, but I wore that thing to death. There's like hundreds of pictures of me wearing it around when I was like 6 or 7. Number 2 went with the original Xbox. That was probably the second console I got after the SNES. I never had a 64 until after that. And then number one, I went with the first like real PC computer that we had. My dad thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. He had been hinting that that's what we were going to get for me and my sister. We shared that gift, kind of like you were talking about, Brooke. But he'd been hinting we were getting a computer, almost like outright saying it. And then on Christmas Day, he wraps up a printer and opens. He was like, "Oh, what'd you get?" And he's just like dying laughing the whole time. He's like, "Let's go see if it works on that computer we got." And we had like an old MS-DOS computer that, you know, it obviously wasn't going to work on it, but we went in there and they had it all set up and stuff. So it was pretty funny, but he thought it was hilarious.
That is great. So I thought of one story that I need to really tell, and that is Santa Claus. So, you know, kids will write letters to Santa Claus. That was a big thing, and I think it's still a big thing. And apparently, I was always afraid, like in department stores and stuff, to go up and meet Santa Claus as a kid. But it was because Mom told me the importance of not lying, and I was always afraid to tell Santa Claus that I was a good boy because apparently I knew that I hadn't been.
Right? You watch your 4-year-old sister in the bathroom and turn the lights off.
No, this was way younger than that. Like I think I was around 5 or 6 when was the first time I actually went up to greet Santa Claus and wrote him a letter. Mom has the newspaper clipping of that letter, and it states the reason why I haven't spoke to you, Santa Claus, is because I haven't been a good boy and I can't tell a lie.
George Washington over here.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I'm gonna have to get Mom, if she can find that newspaper clipping, to give it to me, and I'm gonna put it in this video. That's gonna be great. All right. Well, we normally do a finalized list, but we're not going to do it this time because everyone's
don't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and everyone's list is perfect. So there we go. All right. So for our final segment of the night, we are going to do an episode of Popcorn Christianity, which was a different series, but it's no longer that. We're just including it in our normal episodic podcasts. So let's go ahead and get your refreshments, grab your popcorn, and let's go to Popcorn Christianity.
This liturgical season, the folks at Appalachian Liturgy.
I'm Justin Stacy.
I'm Brooke Atchley.
And I'm Justin Bowling.
Takes the unexpected journey to find Christianity in pop culture.
Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter.
Oh, Inception.
That is
Wonder Woman.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Addams Family.
Okay.
The Munsters and the Batman, the 60s Batman. Black Panther.
Will they be able to find Jesus in time to save the secular media? Or will they...
I feel a little icky about
One podcast, one pop culture, one prophet messiah, one popcorn Christianity.
All right. So, Abby, thank you for picking the movie for us. I'm sure there's going to be a lively debate on why that's not the best version or why it is the best version. But How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jim Carrey 2000 movie. So yeah, let's do a deep dive. I have a lot of notes, but I don't want to go first. Do we want to do a synopsis first?
So, I mean, I think most people know.
I think so. I don't think we need a synopsis.
Grinch Stole Christmas.
I think it fits good with the topic we were talking about missing the true meaning of Christmas. Obviously, this isn't from a Christian point of view, but still, it's the idea is that people are focused on other things other than what Christmas is really supposed to be about.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I was reading some of the history of the story when it was originally written, and Dr. Seuss himself, he considered himself a Grinch, and I think his family basically called him a Grinch because he was, you know, he was a party pooper during the holidays, but it was because he was so disgusted with commercialism of Christmas. And, you know, and I think that in the story, he's admitting that even though he's disgusted and there's a problem here, he still shouldn't have been that way. Like, he let that harden his heart, whereas you should still be loving and caring during Christmas. So I thought that was an interesting story that he's portraying himself as the Grinch there.
So, I know this is one of your favorite movies, whether it's Christmas time or not.
It's up there.
So why do you love it so much?
Well, for one, I grew up on it. It was
Yeah.
the one that I watched as a child. But as I've gotten older, I really started to learn, like, and I started to see it from the Grinch's point of view. And I honestly was like, you know what, Grinch? I completely understand why you want to live all alone with your dog and not want to talk to anybody, because I'm with you, you know, like, I'm right there. But I also, like, going back, this story, it really, like, it dives into why the Grinch is the way that he is. And it's important to see that he saw the true meaning of Christmas when he creates this gift to give to the girl that he likes. You know, like, he works really, really hard to make this, and everybody laughs in his face. And it's in that moment we realize that it's not that they've completely lost the idea of Christmas and the idea of giving. And we're like, you know what, Grinch, you're right, throw your fit, you know, like, I'm with you. And then we also get the story of Cindy Lou, and, like, the one girl who you see that she truly understands Christmas, and you're getting to see, like, oh, you're getting older, and Christmas, like, you're changing, and you get to see how Christmas gets to change too. And so, like, through the years, I've resonated with that. So I've gone from loving to getting gifts to preferring to give them myself. So
when we watched this the other day, I don't know. I mean, so Abby will tell you I listen to movies a whole lot more than I actually watch them a lot of times. But I really sat down and watched this one. And I think as with everything, you know, the more you watch something, the more details you pick up on. And so I really kind of focused in on the Cindy Lou character this time, and really about her kind of struggles with kind of that growing up thing, and where do I fit into this. And really, I love Cindy Lou. Like, I want to be Cindy Lou when I grow up. That's who I want to be. And my kids laugh and say that, you know, that's, I mean, I truly strive to be Cindy Lou and see people that way. But I loved watching her question the meaning of Christmas, and where does she fit into this, and does Christmas really mean what I think it means? And not being able to go to the people around her. Like, I see that in the church all the time. I thought it was interesting that she makes a comment to the Grinch that if you can come and see the true meaning of Christmas, then I have hope for myself, is pretty much what she said. And I thought, wow, that was for me, that was one of the most powerful lines in the whole thing. And I think it just gets smoothed over. So I don't know. So
I thought that even though this is somewhat of a very secular movie,
Sure.
you know, a story in general, like, you don't have any references of Christ in there. I think in the newer version you might have, I think they sing "God Rest You Merry Gentlemen" or something like that. So there's the reference there. But I think that Cindy Lou is playing the Jesus character in the movie. Like, I think she's pointing out to the Israelites, hey, these things you're doing is wrong. Like, there was even so it was at the jubilation with the mayor, and she like, he is quoting basically scripture, and she
quotes it back,
and she quotes it back and says, it's not there. What you're saying is not there. And I was like, that is the Pharisees and Jesus, you know? So I think that she's really revealing the who's heart and the Grinch's heart. Like, she's convicting everybody in this. I also think the dog plays an interesting role for the Grinch. Like, he is the Grinch's subconscious. he's loyal because dogs are loyal, but he does things to nudge,
Him
and
in
I
the right
think that
direction,
that
huh?
was somewhat like God moments of that dog is nudging you in the right direction. So I thought that was really interesting and things I hadn't picked up on when I watched it the first time or the second time or the third time. I've watched it a lot.
Yeah, one thing I picked up that I hadn't picked up before too was like how the great majority of people aren't missing the meaning out of like malice. The mayor obviously is like he's purposely, doing, like you said, misquoting things on purpose, saying things that aren't there, and leading people astray, knowing what he's doing. While everybody else is just kind of just all caught up in their day-to-day activities. So it's not that they're missing it; they just need to be reminded of what they're truly doing, and focus on what's important rather than letting themselves be engulfed in the monotony of day-to-day things.
Yep, that's
Well,
that's very true.
one of the things that I noticed too, and of course Abby and I were watching it together, but even from the beginning with the Grinch, he's not all bad, right? Like you see him try to do good things, and even when he's the Grinchiest, he is still doing things like swerving to miss people, the kids, and he's doing these nice things. He saves Cindy Lou after he throws her in, he pulls her back out, and then he tries to cover it up. I think about people, when we think about Grinches in our lives, many of them are coming from a place of being wounded. And I think as the church, we do a terrible job of being a safe place for people who have been wounded. Also, because of what I do, I couldn't help but think about the movement right now for trauma-informed care. I was like, oh, poor Grinch, all these things happened, and where was his support system? And, and I think that we need to be reminded as the church sometimes that we need to be the safe place for the people who are the ugliest sometimes, and I find myself telling people all the time that we need to love people when they're ugly, because God loves us when we're the ugliest, and that's really, really difficult to do. That is not an easy thing. And I think our culture tells the church as well, these are bad people, and Cindy Lou had this constantly, right? Why would you do this? Why would you waste your time? He's just, see, I told you, he ruined it. Mm-hmm. And we expect people who are Grinchy to just all of a sudden be flowery and fun, and it's just not realistic. I mean, I don't know.
Something I appreciate about this specific iteration of the movie, of the Grinch story, is we do get a backstory of why he turned into a Grinch, and it was the Who's basically bullying him for looking different, and that I appreciate that, because that's the origin story, and it's very relatable. You can be bullied as a kid and turn up to just hate people, and so we need to think of that. And number one, we should not bully. No one should be part of bullying. But we need to be accepting of people that look different, act different, because there was nothing about the Grinch that wasn't natural for him. And they were bullying basically because he had a beard. So I thought that was interesting that we got that origin story. And he did let it fester, and he hated these people because of it. So that was a little. I felt like another layer of the Grinch story that we don't necessarily get in the original, because it's not just about him railing against commercialism or the presents or all that stuff. It is more than that. Like, he actually despises the people for a reason. And they really despise him too.
Yeah, when the mayor gives him the gift of the
clean shape,
he's that just needling on, and I think we always tend to focus on kids bullying other kids, but it's more than that. That doesn't stop when you turn 18 or get out of high school. I mean, we see that occurring all the time. And what's really sad for me is we see it in the church, in adults, and it's a sickness in the church that things like the Grinch points out happens.
Yeah, and I appreciated that. This movie does a good job of showing the flaws of the Who's. Especially in the beginning. They start out with like Black Friday and 90% off or whatever, and I was like, that's Black Friday for us. So there's some deep flaws, and most of them were lied about things when they were talking about the Grinch. So yeah, everybody's flawed, and I think that's one of the great things about the Grinch story is it shows everybody's flawed. Everybody needs that conversion, needs that love, and then at the end of this movie, everyone gets it. There's forgiveness. It's just a wonderful Christmas story.
It was a good pick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a good pick. So I was going to mention Proverbs 25:20 says, like vinegar on a wound, like vinegar on a wound is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. So talking about someone who's depressed and has anxiety, and when you sing songs, holiday songs or whatever, that could really trigger them and to send them deeper into this loneliness and depression. So, we should be aware of that too. Like, we need to have better relationships with people, especially in the church, to understand that they might be a Grinch, but it's because there is they're crying for help, really.
Yeah, and I think, especially in the holiday season, whether that's Thanksgiving through Christmas, we are very bad about showing the reality of that. We only show the good. I mean, I think it's highlighted in social media nowadays, but this has been going on forever. Though, wanting your kids to have the biggest and best Christmas presents because so-and-so does that for their kids, or having the best house on the block, or, and we need to be real with folks that, there are chairs that are empty at our table, either because of death or because of discord in the family. There are very few Norman Rockwell scenes that happen across, and we need to be honest about that. I mean, we look more like the Whoville table at the end most of the time than anything else, and that's part. I just think we've lost that authenticity as Christians, and I think it gets compounded at the holidays.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So one last point, I guess, that I had wrote down here is the entire story of the Grinch, at least in this movie iteration, I felt like was the story of Job. If the Grinch is sort of playing Satan here, and he is doing things to try to destroy the spirit of Christmas of the Who. And so first he burns down the tree, right? So yeah, he gets triggered after with the shaving thing, and then he burns down the tree, and he thinks that's going to do it. Well, that don't do it. They just replace the tree. So then he's like, then he comes up with, I'm going to steal all the decorations and I'm going to steal all the presents. And then that doesn't do it. And then all the presents is returned after his conversion. I felt like, that is a story of Job, that the Who's being tested. How faithful are they going to be when the stuff is taken away? And that turns out, because of Cindy Lou, they are faithful.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So
All
let's take this one step further. You got me thinking here, Stacy. So one of the things that I'm hearing constantly right now from folks is they just don't feel like this is Christmas because of COVID, right? And we do feel like a lot has been taken away from us. But if we follow the example of Whoville, this might really be an opportunity for the church to be reawakened to what Christmas is really about. So I wonder who among us are going to rise up and be Cindy Lou's.
That's a good question and a good point. Like, I believe that too. I believe that not just Christmas, but I believe that
across the board,
we have been taught lots of lessons as the church this year, and we are being pointed towards Christ again. Like, here is the reason. And, even if we can't be with family, even if we can't give presents, even though we can ship presents, but it's not going to be the same. I mean, because
the post office right now.
don't do that. You're not going to get it. We're being forced to take a step back, and here is the reason. Here's why we can celebrate, even if we're alone, we can celebrate the birth of Christ, the incarnation of Christ, and the coming of Christ. We can do these things. And I really hope that is the message we get out of 2020 Christmas is, we don't have to feel lonely and depressed because we're not going to possibly be with our family. We should be hopeful. We should feel re-energized that, the church, this is like a calling now, a coming to Jesus moment, and we need to step up.
More so a Jesus coming to us moment. Ooh.
There we go. Ooh. Ooh. Very good. All right. Was there any last thoughts? That was a pretty good discussion.
Yeah.
And okay, I think we do have a final thought. Bowling, why do you hate this movie?
Oh.
So I do not hate this movie. This is well, not my youngest now, but the 4-year-old's favorite movie. She has Grinch everything. She has a bunch of Grinch stuffed dolls. I have no idea why she loves the Grinch so much, but she absolutely does. She calls him Mr. Grinch.
Cindy Lou.
Yeah. So maybe she is the Cindy Lou Who. She kind of has the look, the really blonde hair and stuff. But no, to me, I think it's just my least favorite of the Grinch movies. And I don't hate it, but I think it just drags on in a few spots, and it's kind of hard to be a rewatchable movie every year. So like the 30-minute one works a lot better to watch because, it flows very well. But there's a few spots here to where like Jim Carrey's riding around or something like that, and there's 5 minutes of him causing havoc.
I have a theory. I have a theory about why you don't like this movie as much as the others.
I don't like it. Okay.
I'm softening my stance. Okay, it's Christmas. I'm softening my stance. But my theory is that Jim Carrey annoys you.
I do have to have him in smaller doses. Yeah, that might be part of it.
And I will admit that seeing him play the Grinch is like seeing him play literally anything else. It's like the Grinch is playing Jim Carrey. It's not that Jim Carrey is playing the Grinch. It's the Grinch is playing Jim Carrey. He does that with every comedic role he's ever done.
Yeah, it's over the top a little bit. So somehow through all the watchings, I have missed out on the mistletoe scene.
Oh yeah.
Kiss it, Whoville.
Kiss it, Whoville. And I went, ooh, so not that I'm a prude, but I was just not expecting, it's a very Jim Carrey moment. So
it is.
Yeah,
it is. It is probably the most mature version of the Grinch you're going to get.
And immature at the same time.
And immature. I really like the one that came out a couple years ago. That one's really good. I think
we have to watch it.
It's not as good. It's just not.
I liked it.
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I think I like it slightly better than this one, but I still prefer the original.
The original.
I do like that both of the newer ones have a backstory, which is nice. They're a slightly different backstory from each other, but I still feel like that they both kind of drag on a little more. Yeah,
still worth watching.
And I like that they all fit into classic song. I mean that's a classic. And I think that Cindy Lou's song "Where Are You Christmas" is sort of a cult classic now too. Like that's when you hear. I like it too. Yeah.
And going back to our original topic, it's really what we should be singing as the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To each other, not to culture, but to ourselves.
Yeah. Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this was very fun. Thank you, Abby, for coming up with that and for joining us. I think we had a very fruitful conversation. Hopefully, everyone gets in the Christmas spirit now that we've beat that war on Christmas.
Yeah.
You should get the Nerf gun out and shoot it.
No, I think Fortune carried off our bullets.
The cat carried off all the bullets.
That's probably the best for the best.
It is.
All right. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Season's greetings, if you will. And
Christmas is a season. It's not just
Yeah.
a day. So
exactly. Yeah, I mean, Christmas technically has not started yet as of the filming of this, but it will start on the 25th and go for 12 days. And so, yeah, keep celebrating it. Keep celebrating it until Epiphany.
oh,
Whoa, look at that. Look at those lights.
look at Bolden celebrating. I think one of his kiddos is having some fun.
Yeah, they discovered a lot.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas, guys. And
Merry Christmas.
peace be with you and good night.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior, born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power. You were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. God, our heavenly Father, blessed angel came to the certain shepherds, tidings just the same. How that in Bethlehem the Son of God by name. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. When they came to Bethlehem, where old dear Savior lay, they found him in a manger, oxen feed on hay. His mother Mary kneeling down to the Lord did pray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Now to the Lord sing praises, all youth in this place. True love